pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So welcome to our June 6th Tiverton School Committee meeting.
Jared.
Yeah, okay, I was just getting to that part. All right, so open forum. We have J. Michael Dowley.
And thank you for this opportunity to come here tonight. My name is J. Michael Downey, and I'm president of Rhode Island Council 94 AFSCME. I'm here tonight on behalf of the members I represent, Local 2670, specifically the teacher assistants. Over the past few years, the work environment at Tiverton High School has become very toxic. Unfair work practices have been a regular occurrence, and preferential treatment has been given in regards to unlimited access to school buildings, parking privileges, but more importantly, scheduling choices, as well as job placement. Micromanaging has prevented the classroom teacher from making decisions that are in the best interest of the student. Because of this preferential treatment, students have been left unsupported in classes, which has led to the students unable to complete assignments and projects. This turmoil has caused the school to lose many talented teachers and staff in the last several years, with the most turnover occurring during the last year. 2 special ed teachers, 1 department head for special ed, and 1 teacher assistant. This constant disruption and continuity has caused undue stress and anxiety for students in the classroom. Safety and well-being of students and staff has been greatly affected in this environment. On October 25th, 2016, special education meeting was held with teacher assistants, special education teachers, special education department head, regional special education directors, and the principal. Scheduling and protocol concerning chain of command was discussed. It was decided that the special education teachers were in charge of scheduling. Also, if there was a problem that needed to be addressed, teacher assistants would report to the teacher first to resolve the matter. It was not resolved with the lead teacher. TAs would then follow chain of command, teacher head of a department, and principal as per Mr. Ashley's instruction at the meeting. After resolving said matters, the superintendent then overrode all decisions made concerning schedules and class placement. Consequently, the chain of command was not followed. Due to all of these issues, Step 1 grievance was filed on November 17th, 2016. Presidents of our union met with the regional head and special education high school principal. Ultimately, concerns in Step 1 were not completely resolved. Because of the unresolved issues, a Step 2 grievance was filed on December 13th, 2016. With the grievance postponed until after the holidays, Mr. Rurick chose not to hear said grievance, which leads us to where we are at this point, Step 3 of the grievance process. Lastly, it should be known that the decision to go through the grievance process was difficult for all of the teacher assistants that I represent.
Excuse me, Mr. Dowley. I just need to inform you
Actually,
that you
it's Downey, D-O-W-N-E-Y.
Okay, excuse
Yeah.
me, Mr. Downey. I just want to let you know that you are limited to 5 minutes and you are currently at 4.
So I got a minute left?
Correct.
That'll be perfect, thank you. So ultimately, concerns in Step 1 were not completed, resolved. Because of the unresolved issues, Step 2 grievance was filed on December 13th, as I said, which leads us to where we are at this step, point 3 of the grievance process. Lastly, it should be known that the decision to go through the grievance was a difficult one for all the people I represent. Our first priority throughout this entire process has always been the welfare of the students. So we're here this evening actually demanding that somebody listen to our grievance, whether it be the superintendent or the school committee. But the members I represent have a dignity in the workplace. They work hard for this department. They care about the kids, and someone from the school committee or the superintendent should care enough about them to at least listen to their grievance. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, can I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Mr. Rurick?
Yes. Maternity leave, Tiverton High School, Social Studies, Lindsay Richards. Resignations, middle school, 2 RTI positions, Rebecca Chalk and Jennifer Giles. Middle school after school detention bus supervisor Daryl Roldwall, THS head field hockey coach Brittany Vasconcelos, Ranger teacher's aide Angela Lombardi.
Okay. Correspondence?
Yes, I included a email that I received from RIDE a couple of weeks ago informing us that the high school's engineering academy has been approved by RIDE, and starting next year, we will be able to have students from the Newport County region, the same region where kids go to Newport. If they choose to, they can come here on a tuition basis.
Can we have a communications director or Amy, whoever, get some sort of press release or something out for that?
I can get that out to our communications lady.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could you just talk a few minutes about that? Because it's such a big deal. I would have put it on Spotlight on Success, because we've been working hard on that, all of us, for 3 years. So
Well,
You want
it's-
to have it on the next agenda?
we could just say
Yeah,
what
yeah.
what it is. I just want to.
Well, what it
Oh.
is it's our Project Lead the Way program that we have here at the high school. It's also because we've started Project Lead the Way down at the middle school. It helped with our accreditation process. And again, it will allow us to charge tuition. That's something we'll have to discuss at a later date, what the tuition rates would be if somebody wanted to attend Tiverton for that program.
Okay.
Portsmouth has two similar programs that they just recently had accredited as well.
Okay.
And we're the only engineering academy in Newport County.
And a lot of that is through the Perkins funding and the Prepare Rhode Island grant and all those grants we had
That's
received.
correct.
All through the years, it was over $100,000 in grants that we received to kick off this program. So everybody worked very hard, and thank you very much. And thank you, Linda
that's great.
Larson, for doing that.
Will
Thank
you put that actually on an upcoming agenda so that we can, before the fall, talk about what we think the rates will be?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I'll entertain a motion to move up item 9A.
I'll make a motion to move up 9A, Spotlight on Success.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. I think we're going to Ranger kindergarten class first.
Yes, Miss Scanlon, Miss Amanda Scanlon's here with some of her students, and she's going to come and speak to the committee.
Good evening. As part of our kindergarten program this year, we did a pilot of centers, play-based centers within the classroom for learning. One of our units was on construction, and the kids were presented with a challenge from the governor, and the challenge was, what type of building can we make in the state of Rhode Island to make it a better place for kids to live? And they each came up with their own ideas. I then grouped them by similar ideas, and then we had 5 groups within the classroom. We voted in the classroom. They all worked so very hard on their projects, and they came out wonderful. And this was the project that the class voted on. It is the Stop Heart Home Hotel, and I'm going to let them share a little bit about their ideas behind it. But they went from the planning process to the designing process to the actual building of the structures. So I thought that they could share their work with you. What is the idea behind the Stop Heart Home Hotel? What's it for?
It's for if your house burns down, you can go there for free. Or if you just want to go on vacation there, you have to spend $50 to go there.
Yeah, so if something happens to your house, their whole idea was that people in Rhode Island need a place to go where something happens, and this is that kind of hotel that they came up with to go and stay for free if there's a fire or something happens to your house. What's the special part over here? Come on over. What's the special part? The grown-ups can also have fun.
What's in there?
The sunny spot for kids. Yep, outdoor play kind of stuff.
If it's a rainy day out, and you can have fun inside, you can go here to play.
So it's an indoor kind of play area for them to go in and play as well. project was selected for a visit from Dr. Lynch from the Rhode Island Department of Education, and she got to come and see all the work from the classroom, and they all shared their work with her. So,
And that's the plan.
oh, these are our
Oh,
plans.
oh, the plans. Look how cute.
Would you like to join the building committee?
What are they doing tomorrow night?
Anything else? Does that cover it? Good?
Can you just tell us who each of these children are?
What's your name? Ruby.
Hi, Ruby.
And Julia.
Yeah.
And Kevin.
Heaven. Welcome.
Good job.
Very good, thank you. Of course.
And then there's that you have to press that button, and then a ladder comes and you can climb up the ladder to get to the pool.
Oh, safety.
Wow.
Yes, very
All
nice.
right.
Very good.
Well
Thank
done.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think I see Representative Edwards and Representative Canario lurking back there.
And we'll come back. You want to finish? Yeah, let's finish this. then.
Okay, all right. So we have a mock trial team.
Yes.
I thought I saw Mr. Soa back there. Did I see him? Yeah, he's back there. And Mrs. Costa, of course.
Nice.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Christine Costa. I'm a sixth grade teacher at Tiverton Middle School, and I'm also the mock trial advisor. For the last 12 years, we have not had a mock trial program, but it was brought back this year, along with attorney Jeff Soa. We are the advisors for the mock trial team. We teach the students how to defend and prosecute a case. I'm very new to the inner workings of trial procedures, so Attorney Soa was very instrumental in preparing our team members, teaching them how to write and deliver opening statements, how to question and cross-examine witnesses, and how to create strong closing arguments. We are also assisted by Gail Gabriel, who shared her past experiences as a mock trial advisor from Tiverton High School. And another attorney, Attorney Jennifer St. Laurent, also attended some of our meetings to offer suggestions for improving our students' courtroom presentations. Our team is comprised of students from grades 6 through 8. We met weekly from October through April. As the competition dates grew nearer, we did meet twice a week. Even during spring vacation, the students asked if we could meet, so we held a meeting in the New Tiverton Library in one of the conference rooms there to practice. Needless to say, they were very dedicated. They took their roles in the mock trial program very seriously. The mock trial program benefits students in many ways, but two of the skills that really stand out are argumentative writing and public speaking. Convincing someone to be on your side of the case is done by providing the evidence woven into a theme in which a student lawyer tells the story of who committed the crime. Our team has great writers, and they've also become great public speakers. Our 11-year-old to 14-year-old participants presented their cases at the Garrahy Judicial Complex in Providence in front of their peers, teachers, advisors, opposing team, and also an official judge sitting at the bench. As an advisor watching the trial take place, I was really amazed. The students were poised and well prepared. They gave opening statements and closing arguments from memory. Mind you, these opening statements and closing remarks can last for up to 4 minutes. So speaking from their studying was really impressive. Students were scored on their presentation and substance of their case. Overall, there were 5 schools out of 14 who participated that won both trials in their competition, and TMS mock trial team was one of those 5 students. There are actually only 14 mock trial teams for middle school level in the whole state of Rhode Island. So to be 1 out of the 14, and if you think that there are 52 public middle schools in the whole state, it's pretty impressive that we have a team again. So Attorney Soa, if you want to make a few words.
Sure.
So first of all, I apologize for my appearance here. I actually just made the third inning and the rain got in the way of the rest of our game. My son Ben's here. He's one of our members of the mock trial team. So mock trial in the state of Rhode Island, my father, who is a judge, retired 2 years ago. Actually, the name of the championship cup that you win when you compete in high school is the SOA Cup. So being a Tiverton resident and having a son in the middle school, I thought it was appropriate to bring back the mock trial competition. Every single time I walk into the auditorium, you see the victories from I think it was 99 and 2000. By the time he's a senior, I fully expect to have 3 or 4 more of those banners.
Those banners up.
I've got to say, it was one of the most incredible experiences that I've had in my life. I've tried jury trials, I've represented clients in very important matters, but I've never had the feeling of elation that I had when TMS, comprised of a brand new group of students who had never even thought about the law, spent 4 months from scratch, learned the trial process, and frankly, if you saw the dry run leading up to the trial, it was a little shaky. We were a little nervous. But we went into the courtroom, which incidentally was my father's courtroom, and my son, who was only in 6th grade, competing against older kids that had been experienced, been in the program before, and my superstar over here, Emma, were absolutely amazing. Everybody in this room would be so proud if they had a chance to watch that performance. We went undefeated. We've got young members of the team. I see nowhere but great things ahead. I appreciate the support, certainly, of the committee, and I can't say enough great things about the principal, Mrs. Mitchell, who was incredibly supportive, and obviously Mrs. Costa, who was the best teammate that I could have possibly asked for to coach these kids in terms of commitment, in terms of structure, organization. She's an absolutely amazing teacher. I'm proud of these kids, and I can't wait to see what the future brings for the mock trial program. So I thought maybe the members of the committee might have a few questions for those that actually were the stars of the show, unlike me and Mrs. Costa. So Emma, if you want to step up and say a couple words about your experience.
Well, I had 2 trials. One of them I was on the prosecution team, and the other one I was on the defense team. Our first trial was the defense, and when I was on the defense team, I played a witness, and I was actually the defendant. And because I have a background in acting, it was really interesting because I'd never really done something like that before, but I was very into it, and I really liked the whole experience with that. And then I got to do the same thing on the prosecution team. I got to be the attorney, and I got to prosecute the same witness that I played for the defense. So I had to look at 2 sides of the case and see how to prosecute and also how to defend myself. So.
Very nice.
Emma's a little humble, but on the last trial, she got a perfect score of a 10 for her presentation.
My goodness.
Very good.
And that won't be your last one, I promise you. And my son, Ben Soa, will also share a couple comments about his experience, too.
I found this to be a very amazing experience because I have always been interested in law. Growing up around my mom and dad, who are both lawyers, so I've always been around talks about laws, cases, all the whole shabam. And, well, this mock trial was all of that and more. We learned how to defend ourselves, how to prosecute someone else. We learned closing arguments, opening statements, and we learned many important life lessons, like how to speak in front of other people and not freeze up when you're being judged on something that you haven't done before. Also, we learned to memorize things that we have studied. As Mrs. Costa has mentioned, we presented our opening closings from memory after writing them, which would be a total of 4 minutes or up to a full page of writing or 2. I also found it to be very fun because while competing against another team in something that I found very interesting was a very exhilarating experience for me, and I believe that it was also very engaging and exciting for many other people that participated in this mock trial.
Thank you.
That's it.
10 going on 20.
I have one last point, but I just blanked on it, so I guess I'll stop at that. But not bad for someone that was playing right field about 20 minutes
That's
ago.
right, that's right.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And we have Cora.
We have Gloria Christ here, who's going to give a end of the year summary.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Gloria Christ with the CORE organization, and our managing director, Pam Pauley, is here. I just want to go over the incredible amount of work that we've been able to accomplish since I was here only a year ago. And I have to first start by saying thank you to each and every one of you, and to the bus company, because it is such an incredible working machine, and we couldn't do what we do without the support of the school system. Our spring classes increased participation by 30%. And that includes classes in all the elementary schools, the middle school, and our off-site location at Amicable Church. We do feel that much of this increase really is because of principals getting the word out and PTOs. So again, we're just so very grateful. We held our first ever recycled sculpture contest. I think that's why there were no kindergartners, because they were busy doing this hotel. But it was incredibly successful with the winning sculptures on display at the library, and then they made the rounds. Traveled to all the elementary schools, the middle school, Union Library, and Town Hall, and it was really a wonderful community project. Our summer program, we are collaborating with the Art Literacy Camp to offer 2 camps this summer with the focus of moving full STEAM ahead, and which you all familiar with the STEAM acronym. And I will be running a theater arts camp here at the high school. So we hope this will be a summer event that keeps growing. In addition to that, we are also at the Union Library with Pam leading a program on looking at the art of Georgia O'Keeffe, and they'll create their own artwork. It's a 6-week program. We're also involved in Singing Out Against Hunger. We have a raffle basket to include 3D art and art supplies to the lucky winner. We have also been invited to participate in the Under the Sea Parade, which is part of the Seafood Festival or the Clam Bake Festival in Wickford, and kids will be designing their own costume to be in the parade. This fall, we began a second Saturday series with the Tiverton Library, and every second Saturday of the month, we'll have a guest artist come in and teach a workshop. We're also participating in Pardon Gray, and we have students who will be doing their community service, helping out. Now, our fall classes, again, it's already jam-packed and full. We started a pilot program in 2 schools this past year, spring and fall, with K-1. And we weren't sure how it was going to work. It ended up being our most popular class. And we turned it into a multidisciplinary class where for 45 minutes our K-1 students would go to a fine art program. They would take a break and switch and then go to 45 minutes of a creative movement. It was extremely popular at Pecasset and Ranger. And this fall we are implementing it as a full service program in all the elementary schools. So we will also be adding an animation class with film. Each will have iPads. The kids will design their own films. We are adding a youth chorus program for our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. There's not a music program in the elementary schools or a singing or vocal. So we're adding on with that and continue on with our fine arts and our musical theater and acting program. I do have some students with me who may want to get up and just speak. We have a first timer, Grace. You want to come up and talk about your artwork? So this was Grace's first time in any of our core programs. Why don't you just explain what you did?
Well, I made a flower made of a tiny bottle of paper plate and tissue paper, and I designed it to look like it was outside. And I did the bottle to look like it was a flower pot, and I made the flower to look like it had like petals.
And how did it make you feel to make art every week?
Happy.
Yeah. Good. Great. Thank you.
Thank
Grace.
you.
My older students. So Kylie, Robert, and Emma have been with me for a while, and Emma was in art program at the middle school and also continuing on in our acting musical theater. Robert's in acting and musical theater. Kylie's in musical theater and voice and acting. And each of them have something that they want to explain or detail about their experience in our programs, and then we'll wrap it up. So Emma, why don't we start with you? And I have to say, with all of that acting background, I'll tell you, a courtroom is very close to a theater.
So I was involved in 2 of the core programs. One of them was for acting and musical theater, and the other one was for actual painting and art. And this was the final piece that I made for that art class. And the teacher brought in a still life and set it up for us, and then we all had to sketch it out and paint it and design a background. It was really a good experience. And the acting class I've been in for a very long time, since 4th grade, and it's just been a great experience to have.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Robert, and I was involved in the musical arts and acting program, and I am a little singer boy. So I got into singing actually in church when I was about 6, and then I was actually at one point in the state chorus, but I quit to pursue acting. I did so I did a bit of summer camps, and then there was core and a piece of paper. And then, so first impressions walked in, pretty fun. I saw some people from my school there, so it really didn't seem like it would be that hard to fit in, and it wasn't. So, and then my acting part is, I can act. I've been practicing, well, I did a couple of concerts, did a solo, and it was a really good experience because I felt important. And honestly, I really wouldn't be doing it if it didn't put a smile on people's faces. Like, I mean, sometimes I just like to make people smile. Sometimes I just like to make people happy. Depends on the mood.
Tough round.
Thank you.
So, hi, I'm Kylie, and I've been doing acting and voice. And when I first started acting, I was very shy. And now with Gloria, I'm very loud and outgoing, I guess.
Don't say that too loud.
Sorry. I remember one of my plays, the first play actually, was Wizard of Oz, and I had like a little part in it where I had to come up in front of everybody and say, "We thank you very sweetly for doing it so neatly," which was scary for me. And in core, I designed this puzzle piece.
Oh, that's very
And
nice and glitter.
Also, in voice, I've come to know that I love singing and acting. So, thank you.
So it's pretty obvious. I love what I do so much. And, in this format, we are a district that is so fortunate to do what we do. And it's we as a collective group of educators and artists and caregivers, because we are looking at the whole child each and every week. And I hope soon to be announcing a wraparound project that we're really working on to address additional needs that the whole child needs as far as wellness and nutrition, and looking how the arts can service a child as stressors get more demanding and disciplines become too stress-inducing. Am I forgetting anything? We're busy. We're really busy, and we hope to continue to be more to expand more into what we do. And please, we are open to feedback. We want to be a part of what matters. So thank you again and again for allowing us the opportunity to do what we do. It's really a great honor. Thank you.
Dr. Larkin, may I say something? May I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Gloria, I just wanted to thank you and everyone for that program. When we were at the budget committee, they were talking about cutting music at one point, the arts. And I said, Winston Churchill, when they came to him during the war and said, because of bullets and bombs, we have to cut the arts and music. And he said, what are we fighting for then? And that's how we all feel. And I attended a funeral where the young man was singing. And I said to him after, I hope you're going to Tiverton. And then I saw his grandmother. I said, I know he's going to Tiverton. So that was good. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much.
I'm going to make a motion to move up 9F.
Okay, do you have a second?
A second.
All those in favor? Okay, representatives. So Mr. Edwards and Mr. Canario are here to give us some good news. Well, we call it good news,
that
but
was a
money
very
is
tough act to
synonymous.
follow. But it was actually really exciting to see all the good things that are happening in the Tiverton school system. There's no one here from the middle school.
Mrs. Mitchell couldn't make it tonight.
Okay.
We're all from the middle school.
So,
Miss
Chairman
Costa-
Larkin, if you want to come up.
Miss Costa's still there. Christine's still there.
Yeah, Mrs. Costa, please come.
Mrs. Costa.
Come on up.
We go way back.
You can fill in.
You get to fill in. You get the money.
You're already dressed for the role, too.
We have a grant check for $1,750 as requested by the middle school for AED.
Thank you.
Okay.
Or you write cash in the back and give it back to us.
Dennis, before you go, can you just, for the people who don't know what AED is, you just a short about what this is going to do?
It's an automatic electronic defibrillator that in case someone was to have a heart attack or something, it's a really great device because it's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
So when you take the pads, it tells you where to put the pads and everything, and it's really a lifesaver. It's great to have around the school.
It is, and thank you both.
And
so
thank you
much.
both for all
Thank
your
you.
support. Thank you very much.
Okay, so should we be moving anything else up? Or you want to go back to 7?
Yes. The committee, for the first reading, the policy subcommittee has, per conversations here at previous meetings, has developed and drafted a meal charge policy. It would be policy 356 if approved, and it's before the committee for consideration. For a first reading.
And just to provide a little background for the committee, we had mentioned this at our prior meeting where all the districts in the country that are abiding by the USDA rules for funding for school lunch programs need to adopt a meal charge policy. So that's the motivation that we have to get this done by the end of the school year. So basically what we did with this draft policy is to document our current practice, and we've made a couple of adjustments to it, and we think it's pretty sound. So we're proposing that the committee certainly ask any questions or let us follow up on any ideas that we may not have covered in this, but we're pretty comfortable with what we prepared.
So a quick summary would be, we decided that we're going to, different ages require different responses.
So it's sort of progressive levels of responsibility based on elementary, middle, and high school. Elementary, basically no change. They're allowed to continue to charge. We didn't feel that it was appropriate for the younger students to have the level of responsibility.
And they'll get a full meal just no matter what.
Correct. And then progressively, as they reach the middle school level, we're allowing 1 week of charges of meals before they're provided an alternative meal. The alternative meal is basically a USDA nutritionally compliant meal, but generally it consists of a cheese sandwich rather than a full meat entree.
But it would be the sandwich,
But it has the side.
Side dish,
Yeah.
milk,
Yeah.
correct. And then as they go to the high school, it's our current practice right now, high school students aren't allowed to charge meals, so that is going to continue. So we have the 3 tiers of how we're going to allow meal charging based on this proposal.
So in the cases of the elementary and middle school students, there is contact made with the parent or guardian?
Yeah, a little more background.
Background.
We review any school lunch balances on a periodic basis, and I believe every 2 weeks now, we're going to be sending out via mail a notice to parents. As we become a little more advanced, we're going to be sending out emails and other forms of communication, but we feel comfortable that our database of addresses right now is the most comprehensive list that we have to send out these notices.
And part of the policy also will encourage families, as it comes to our attention, to apply for free and reduced lunch.
That's a big part of
during
this.
throughout the school year. It's open enrollment.
Getting notice out that students can apply throughout the year for the free and reduced lunch program is an important part of this. Their status can change during the
Right,
school year.
so that's good.
And they're continuously allowed to submit an application, and we'll turn that around as quickly as we can to get the child the proper benefits.
So they'll have the support. That's very thoughtful. Yeah.
And while for some districts it's a huge financial burden, it's typically not.
No, and like I said, we're doing this because everyone's mandated to doing it, but it's not a significant problem in Tiverton.
Okay, thank you for the policy committee. So do we have a motion just to? We
There's
don't.
no motion.
It's just for
first
first
reading.
reading.
Just the first reading.
So we just go to the next time. Okay.
Thank you.
It'll be on the 20th, and then it will be approved at that time.
Okay. Prevention Coalition request?
Yes, there's a request from Mrs. Elwell to send out a survey to students in grades 7 through 12. I believe Rebecca's here to answer any questions the committee may have.
Do you have any preliminary statements, or you just want to?
We have done surveys with our 7th through 12th graders for many, many years, going back probably 7 years, because it was before we received our first drug-free community grant, which we're now in our year 6. We always utilized a survey that was created, not really in-house, but with an evaluator that we were working directly with. Now, as of 2016, we are required to use, the coalitions are required, if we're going to survey in schools, to use a RIDE-approved survey, which is what you have in your packet. It's the RIDE-approved survey. RIDE has given permission to the Department of Behavioral Health, or their authorization to use the survey every other year. So we did it in 2016, and we are proposing to do it again in 2018. It is roughly the same survey that was given in 2016, with the elimination of some of the questions. And I don't think that there was anything added to the bulk of the survey, with the exception of gender questions on page 1.
Is that the ones that have the circle around them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what you have
Those are the
circled.
ones I circled.
Yes.
So, questions 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Rearick contacted me after I had sent him the survey draft, and just to clarify, I am not the author of the survey. In 2016, apparently, when they asked the gender question, they asked, what is your gender, male or female? And that was it. They got when they evaluated the survey, there was an overwhelming response of feedback from students saying, that doesn't include me. So for question number 3, they added a couple of additional categories, which to me appear appropriate. They also added questions 4, 5, and 6, which Mr. Rearick contacted me to ask sort of what are those questions there for? Why are they there? How did they get added? And my best guess, and it simply is a guess, is that RIDE and behavioral health are collecting demographic information because there's federal money available to work with transgender students. It's a guess based on some of the grants that we've received recently, the STOP grant, where we wrote a grant for $50,000 times 4 years and received it in order to provide additional support for students who identify as transgender. So my guess is that there's federal money out there and the state of Rhode Island is looking to tap into it and needs data.
When I spoke to Rebecca, my concerns, I can somewhat understand question 4 regarding the transgender question, regarding what is your gender, but I'm still unclear as to why 5 and 6, how they're relevant to what's being asked in the overall survey.
I was going to ask the same exact questions, and thank you for clarifying who the authors of the survey are. Is this a RIDE survey then?
RIDE is not the author. It was created through the Behavioral Health Department, Rhode Island, BHDDH, and then RIDE. Yes, RIDE has to sign off on it, and they did.
And I do have concerns over questions 5 and 6 in particular, especially for the younger students.
Can we strike them for our?
I think that if you are concerned, that would be
That
a
would
very
be our action.
reasonable request, that the school committee could give its approval pending the elimination of questions, whichever, 4 and 6. I mean, I'm sorry, 5 and 6. You know, without going too far on a limb with this, I am here to advocate for this because I'm a grant-funded entity through BHDDH. I share concerns about question 5. We work very hard with our students to have them be concerned about how they feel and what they think and what they believe to be right for themselves. And then we're asking a question about how they think other people would describe them.
Yep.
And not as the coalition coordinator, but as a parent. That concerns me, that we're asking students to sort of step out of themselves and think about what other people, how they may be perceived. I don't think there's any reason to collect data on that.
I got to back up here a minute. So you're making a distinction between RIDE,
BHDDH.
So gloss for me the acronym there.
I'm sorry. It's Department of Behavioral Health, Hospitals, and Developmental Disabilities.
Okay. And but I want to figure out each entity's standing here. So RIDE,
BHDDH,
etc., and the author of the survey, whoever that may be.
It was through
probably
BHDDH is the contractor, so they contracted someone, an evaluator, to create the survey.
Okay.
They sent their created survey to RIDE for approval. They approved it. They have sort of pushed back and forth on some questions, so RIDE added questions. I don't know whether they eliminated any, but when they first created the survey for distribution in 2016, there was that sort of joint working together. BHDDH created the survey, sent it to RIDE. RIDE liked some things and not others. They added some things, took some things away. And so we ended up with the 2016 version. In order to be able to build on that data pool, they've kept this as similar as possible. They eliminated a couple of questions that parents objected to the last time around, so they took feedback, eliminated some questions. The evaluators realized that some questions were sort of overlapping each other. They took those out, and the only 2 that I'm aware, or I'm sorry, 3 that I'm aware that were added with RIDE approval are those 4, 5, and 6.
Again, I really got to get back to the process, though. So, and the standing of each entity. So, this is the officially sanctioned survey that RIDE has adopted and given to all of the Prevention Coalition people, or this is one of several surveys?
This is the only one, and all of the prevention coalitions are funded through BHDDH. So RIDE isn't specifically giving it to us. They've approved it for BHDDH.
Okay.
And BHDDH gives it to
So,
the coalitions.
okay. So the,
Correct.
so what I'm
Correct.
getting at is who's the funding authority and who's the, driver of the
The
survey?
funding authority and driver is the Department of Behavioral Health, BHDDH.
Okay. All right, so that's clear. And this is their survey that they want all districts to administer to grades 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
They're requiring grades 8, 9, and 10, BHDDH. We have, in Tiverton, we have always done 7 through 12.
Okay.
If that continues to work, it helps us because that data is used for our grant requests. We've been very successful with that.
Okay. And when did they send this to you and the other people?
I received this I think it was around May 18th.
Okay.
I sent it to Mr. Rurick. This is the first year, in my memory, that they've required school committee approval as well as superintendent approval. I think we always brought it before the school committee in the past. I'm pretty sure. This is the first year that...
And why did they say why they were doing that?
That was a stipulation that RIDE made. They wanted they wanted school committee approval in addition.
More than likely.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, but did they say why? I mean, did they, or they just
They didn't
drop-
say to me. No,
Okay,
I don't know.
that's always helpful. Just
Yeah.
tell you to do something and say, don't, why?
That's
Okay.
unfortunately the way it goes
Yeah,
a lot of times,
I
is we
know.
don't really always know
And-
the rationale, but
Okay.
to me, it seems like a reasonable thing for, as I said, we've always had that conversation. It wasn't required that we got school committee approval. In our district, we always have. I think probably what has happened in other places, it hasn't
I'm not
happened.
suggesting that it's not a good thing to get the approval of the school committee. I'm just questioning why did they depart from their prior practice?
Yeah, I think they're probably just tightening it up.
Okay. And you said there was a lot of feedback from the prior survey.
So
that the question 3, which is just what is your gender,
Yeah, so the number that was
doesn't apply to me, although it's male,
The-
female, other. I
the
guess,
number that
or
was
not to
quoted
answer.
to us, because the coalition coordinators and directors have had this conversation with BHDDH. Why the change? Why were things added? The gender questions in particular. And as I said, I have no issue with the way that number 3 is worded. You just choose. You pick what you would like to choose. And if you prefer not to answer, that option is right there as well, which is just fine.
Which is actually number 4, I think you're talking about.
Question number
No,
3.
question number 3 asks you what gender you are, and you say male, female, other, prefer not to answer.
So when we were reviewing the survey prior to sending it out for superintendent and school committee approval, the directors had an opportunity to have conversations and provide feedback, which we did. And we offered feedback on questions number 4, number 5, and number 6. And what we were told was that it was in response to roughly 500 individual student feedbacks, surveys with feedback around the gender question, wanting it to be more inclusive.
So 4 and 6, you said you don't have as much of an issue with because it's what best, but 5 is other people.
I'm fairly comfortable with 4. I'm not sure that 5 has any place on the survey, and 6, I'm not sure that that's really our business either.
I feel the same way about 4.
That's my, I'm in between, trying to not feel like we're pretending something doesn't exist that exists. That's sort of just sticking your head in the sand. But I don't understand how it is relevant to what you're trying to get at, which is really substance use and abuse. And it really strikes me as intrusive and somewhat misleading to say, we're going to give you this survey about alcohol, tobacco, and drug use. And by the way, we also want to know about your sex life, which at the age of 14 or 15,
I'm not
bit of an
at all.
overreach.
I'm with you, truly.
Yeah.
It does. So it is an expansion on substance abuse. So I don't want it to be thought of as a substance abuse survey. It's a
okay.
behavioral survey as well. So I think thinking in terms of that, it is and should be broader than drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
I have
take
a
that
hard
point.
time advocating for questions number 5 and number 6, personally. And I would suggest that if the school committee is inclined to say that they approve the survey with the exception of, and then you decide those questions are off, that's how we present, that's how I bring it back.
And I guess I feel like if you're going to get into that topic, this is not the way I would get into it. That's because you're kind of like bringing it up and just kind of leaving it out there. And it's not, trying to, it's not trying to get at our kids.
I don't disagree.
Dysthymic about this? Are there, troubling issues that we are unaware of? It's just kind of like, well, how do people see you? And you're like, I don't know. You have an hour to sort of go through the analysis.
Right.
Maybe I could tell you how they think about me, but I'm not sure I could do it now.
I do not disagree at all.
Another question that I would have also is, what happens to this data?
The data is analyzed through, believe it or not, it's the Cancer Research Institute over at URI. Of course, it has nothing to do with cancer research. It's just that they are an available evaluation team.
But it's completely voluntary.
It is
completely anonymous.
It is anonymous, it is voluntary, and it is confidential. All of the information that's provided is provided in aggregate. I have always been absolutely, completely against information being released from surveys about communities. We never have, as far as the coalition is concerned, we have never released our survey data. I don't even come necessarily to the school committee and report on it because in a way that's releasing the data. A survey is simply a snapshot in a moment of time where kids are reporting things. I believe that there's a great deal of validity built into the surveys. And I also believe that when you can ensure anonymity and confidentiality, kids are very honest. That is always called into question. But the consistency of the data year over year, where we see slight rises and falls in the trends, gives me an indication that there is some reliability, there's a great deal of reliability and validity in what's happening. If kids were wildly telling stories or being untruthful, we would see greater greater spikes and valleys in our data, and we don't see that. And we also see a consistency of our data when we compare it to other communities of similar nature in Rhode Island and also nationally. We see our trends sort of mirrored with the trends of our neighbors and also the national trend data that's collected. The 2016 data was sent out, I believe, to superintendents and principals as well as coalition coordinators.
The press has access too, though, doesn't it?
Not to this.
Not to this? Okay. 'Cause I remember at some point they used to report,
Lori,
Tiverton has a
Lori's
bad
not here.
marijuana program.
It's like test scores.
We had a terrible situation happen several years ago, and it was based on RIDE survey data. It was SurveyWorks or whatever,
remember
InfoWorks or something, where they had asked one tobacco-related question,
just blown all
and
out of
Tiverton Middle School was number 1 in the state, despite the, and it was absolutely false, and it was based on one question. So, RIDE made their data points available to the press, and the press, I don't know, they
ran with it.
were
They
like
ran with it.
sharks, and they felt that there was blood in the water, so that's where they went to, and that should never
And that won't
happen. That will not happen as far as, it'll never be released by this coalition. Well, we will have access, and the superintendent will have access to the data. And that has been a statewide concern for directors when we have feedback sessions with behavioral health, is to make sure that, that's very damaging to a community, especially when they do, rankings. I'm not sure why that is such an appealing thing to do. But whether it be test scores or survey data, when we're ranking communities 1 through whatever it is, 33, 36, however many school districts we have, and somebody's going to be number 1 and somebody's going to be number 36, and depending on what your what you're looking at, depends on what end of that scale you want to be at, it's very detrimental. And for me, as much as I am concerned about the school district, I am mostly concerned about the kids within our schools. And I do not think it's healthy or helpful for that kind of information to be released about our kids.
Do any of the educators have anything to
They
offer?
they haven't seen
They haven't seen the survey? Do you want to take it?
You do.
One other thing that I would want to mention is that the survey this year, it is available paper and pencil should a school department not have the technology to do it online, computer-based. My recommendation, and since we do have the technology to do that, is do the computer-based one. It's faster, and it generates a skip pattern. So, for example, if a student says, I never smoked cigarettes, it doesn't ask them how many times in their life they've smoked. Did they smoke within the last 30 days? How would how would their parents feel if they smoked? They just don't smoke, and so therefore they don't have to answer 4 more auxiliary questions. It just skips them to the next section. That was also feedback provided by students before. I already told you once I don't do this, and to ask 3 or 4 different times is frustrating, annoying, and kids, when they're frustrated or annoyed with the questions that are being asked, are more inclined to just start checking things off, and that's when not me, but the evaluators in their cleaning process, when they scrub the data to make sure that the kids just didn't make star patterns out of the scan sheets or whatever it might be, that's when they notice, kids get frustrated, and that's when they start just checking anything off because
Adults do too.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah.
We all do. They just want to ask so on the computer generated survey, it only asks the question, the most broad question first. If the kid says no, never, then they're skipped right to the next set of questions. So
It's short.
Okay. Do you want to see the survey?
Well, we can continue it. They are not
Yeah.
going to give it till the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to.
Actually, I would be very interested in hearing from the principals anyway, and whatever educators, what they think of the survey as well, particularly those questions that we're having some questions about.
So maybe just give a copy of the survey to your staff
Discuss
and
it at
let's
our
get
next
some
SAC
feedback.
council meeting.
If we do give it too, I just want to make sure that we have a good vehicle in place to make sure that kids understand it is voluntary and it is anonymous. Because sometimes, we don't communicate that. They think they have to, or they get concerned that, I don't want to say it because, so we just need to make sure there's a vehicle. But yeah, we can just continue it to the next meeting and.
Yeah, I think it's worth sharing with our
we have a
principals
proctor
anyway.
guide that we've been using for a long time, and it really does reinforce that we don't want to make it sound like it's so voluntary that nobody takes it, but we also let the students know that we really value their feedback and information, that it really helps us to meet their needs and the needs of the school department, that there's a lot of benefits to them taking it, but if they get into taking it and they want to skip a question, or they get to the point where they don't feel comfortable sharing the information, they're absolutely able to stop at any point, which is very different than saying, "Oh, you don't have to take it if you don't want to," because
Making sure that
I was 15 once myself.
Yeah, I would think the anonymity is the big thing. For
It's a
most
very
kids.
key piece.
Well, you want to continue this? Until
Yeah, I would, and I would ask Mr. Rurick and Ms. Donnelly Roche to share it with the principals and whatever faculty they think would be interested in sort of giving us some feedback on it, because I value what you guys think of this as well. We sort of have a reaction, but maybe you are, maybe your opinion will be different. Okay.
Thank you, Rebecca.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Where are we?
High school core values, beliefs.
Yes.
Mr. Ashley is
Yep.
here as part of the 5-year NEASC reaccreditation process. The high school has to submit reports This report is the 5-year report, and I'll turn it over to Chris to discuss the documents that he presented to you.
Thank you. So beginning in the late fall, early winter of 2016, when we knew we had to provide NEASC, the Accrediting Association of Secondary Schools in New England, with a 5-year progress report, one of the indicators that they ask about is your core values and belief statements. And essentially they ask the question, does it reflect the current school's beliefs, and has it been looked at recently? And so that started a conversation with the faculty. And they said, well, actually, we haven't really taken a look at it since our last visit 5 years ago. And so we took it slowly because there were a number of other indicators we had to look at. And it continued into the early spring when, as we were kind of wrapping up our report to NEASC, and we said, well, the faculty said, well, maybe there are a few areas that we would like to look at. We know these things are on our walls and they're around the building, but I kind of forget what it says. And so beginning with faculty meetings in the midwinter and then extending through to the early spring, we just opened it up first. We looked at the current core values and beliefs, and we just said, what do we like? Is there some particular language? Is there some potential modifications? And there was no particular agenda with this. It was just, if we feel this is great and we want to leave it as is, wonderful, we will. But if we feel like there's some slight modifications, then let's take a look at it. And so this is the document we have here was through a few iterations with the faculty and faculty meetings, feedback from parents and students, really around a little bit of change with the language, but probably more on just formatting, that students and faculty and parents, they just said, all that information is really great, but kind of it's a lot. It's a little dense. And especially when we talk to students and we ask our students, like, do you know what Tiverton High School is all about? What do we really believe in as our core value? What's your purpose? And they kind of give you that stare. And they said, well, what if we could just summarize that in a few key words? And we do that anyway, but something that we could really stamp and say, this is our core values and beliefs. And so hence the acronym piece there that comes after that first paragraph. And so we're requesting approval through the school committee tonight to approve the modifications here, and this would then really the start of next school year be rolled out as our updated core values and beliefs. And then we have continuing reports to NEASC over the next few years, and then actually I believe it's in 6 years is our official next decennial visit, where this, assuming it, and it might change in the next 6 years, but this, along with all our other work, would be part of that visit.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
So I'm assuming that in our package, the first group of paper is the new
Yes.
version.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
I was right on that. I guess my first question, and you did allude to this in your opening, is that you got feedback from teachers, parents, and students. How much feedback did you get from parents and students? I heard about the faculty meetings.
Yeah.
What about the outside?
Yeah, so we sent it out to parents. We kind of chunked it out into each of the new section. We just said, what do you agree? First off, do you agree with the statements? Through email survey.
Was it an email on its own?
It was an email with, I forget, I think we included it as a link.
How many parents did respond?
Not as much as we would have liked.
So here's one of my concerns.
Sure.
I save all my emails.
Yep.
Especially from you, Mr.
Sure.
And initially I was like, I don't remember
Okay.
any solicitation.
Okay.
And I did find it.
Okay.
It was buried with the year-end finals schedule.
Okay.
That came out a few weeks ago.
Okay.
It was not mentioned except for the last paragraph of a rather lengthy email that had a bunch of information.
Okay.
And as a school committee member, had I noticed it, I probably would have taken the survey.
Okay.
I can very well imagine that most parents did not notice it at all, or take an opportunity as a result
Okay.
to provide that feedback.
That's fair.
Realize,
That-
the process has happened, but
That's fair feedback, though.
But I don't think
That's
there's any
that's
hurry
fair.
for getting this, like, it doesn't have to be approved by X date.
No,
So
no,
there's
it does not.
reason we couldn't, just like we just did this survey, send it out again with just this and ask
See if you
people
get a different result.
And what kind of student feedback did you solicit?
Yeah, I had a conversation with the student council from all 4 grades. So we did a kind of a sit-down conversation during an advisory, which is our 30 minutes once a week, and showed them the updated drafts, and just opened it up. Had them take a few minutes to look it over, some conversation amongst themselves. They actually had some really insightful feedback. One of which I was particularly intrigued with was, they like the acronym. They said, we like the acronym. It's simple. They said it doesn't quite flow as easily as we would like. It doesn't quite have that kind of sticking power we like. But they also asked a critical question of, well, how are we going to know that we're doing this? Which is actually one of the key mandates of NEASC. And so we do have our expectations rubrics, but it's something that over the next few years we're going to have to take a look at too, because as the students recognize, it's part of our mission, something we need to hold them accountable to.
And I'm sorry, God. My last question, in the previous version of this, there was an entire section that mentions what Tiverton High School will do to accomplish this mission. I don't see that in the new version. Is there a reason why that was deleted?
In the old version, are you referring to?
Tiverton High School's core values provide, and then the accomplish this mission, Tiverton High School will, for all students, up.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yes. So that 1, 2, 3, and 4 it's not exactly, but it's been somewhat reformatted in the acronym.
This to communicate, innovate.
Right.
So you try to incorporate.
Right.
But I do also think that it turns it onto that the students need to do this instead of Tiverton High School will do this. I think it's a major shift.
Okay.
And I'd just love to see some type of language that shows Tiverton High School's commitment to the students as part of this.
Okay.
Whether I'm not necessarily suggesting the same language,
Okay.
but some language.
Thank you.
And then you want to send this out again to parents with just this?
I would like to see that, yeah. Just,
Sure.
Please take this survey, however you want to word it.
Sure.
But at least I would hope that you'd get more feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a ballpark figure about how many parent responses you did get?
It was on the order of dozens, so not as much as we would like.
Yeah, that doesn't sound so bad actually.
Well, we look at the SALT survey, or I keep calling them SALT surveys.
Yeah.
Survey.
I mean,
Survey
any survey like that,
From
you're
elementary to middle to high school, the participation for parents just.
but all surveys like that, the response rates are usually
I do
abysmal.
think sending it out just that.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
We would
No,
like
that-
your input.
Right.
Yeah.
We value what you have to say and what you think.
Yeah.
No, it's a good point.
And that will give you
Mrs.
time?
Buck, Mrs.
You have
Taylor?
enough time?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. No.
We
no,
just
there's
need
no-
it by the start of the school year.
Yeah, I think I do.
Okay.
You know.
You can do it now while everyone's still.
Sure.
Do you guys have any questions?
Well, that's good.
Elaine?
As long as we have time,
No.
that's good.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, request to participate in the design of mosaic murals for the Tiverton Library.
Yes, see, I think we have a presenter. Is this Peter by any chance?
This is Peter.
Hello, how are you? This is like a big memory bank. I've been in education 50 years. I remember Peter McWalters years back when we first were making the world into standards, because that's how we learn. And Peter came into this meeting. We had our little art standards. And he had this pile, science and social studies and English. He said, I want to let you know that the average Rhode Island student will take 30 years to graduate from high school.
That's right.
With all we had to learn.
Yeah.
That is nothing.
Good old Peter.
Yep. What I'm here to do is ask you, in fact, it's kind of the artist's perennial question. The gal who was here for CORE, I quote, she said, I thank you for allowing us. And it rang a bell. Raphael Stanzo, the Italian Renaissance painter, contemporary Michelangelo. He has a line where we as artists beg you to allow us to make your world more beautiful. And that's what I'm here for. We are doing a mural. My friend Mika Seeger, who lives here in Tiverton, she's done murals at the Picasset School. We've just reinvented and reinstalled the mural here at Ranger School. We are doing a commission for the Tiverton Library, and part of our art is to build community. So you want to build community, I always believe you start with kindergarten or preschool, and then you start building a community. So what we would like to do is to get all children in the town of Tiverton to make a clay piece to go into these 3 murals that Mika and I are making for the library. And these will very likely be small self-portraits. And so I'm looking at, pushing 2,000 little faces, which Mika and I the other day are very likely going to become bark in trees. So that's about as much as I can give you as to what it's going to look like. That's cool. And what we would like to do, Mr. Cabral, Ms. Woodell came up with the solution of scheduling all of this. Mika and I worked at Ranger School with the CORE program after school, and then in 2 days we connected with the art program and made these pieces that we put up. Every kid in the school made one, and we accomplished that in 2 days. So my hope is a couple of days in each school and possibly linking with your art program. If that doesn't work because of scheduling, which in middle school, high school may well be the case, we're very happy to do an after-school workshop, something over in the corner of the lunchroom, whatever would work. We're working through CORE and through the principals in the art program. So we will find ways to make it work. We just want your okay to go for it and do just that.
And K through
12?
What?
K,
All the way? K through 12?
K through, we're actually going to do work with senior citizens. So, yeah, K to 12. And, yeah, that's about it. You guys in Tiverton have always had a great sense of art. And in today's world, Einstein had some line to the effect that data does not matter. But what does is what we do. And art is right there with that. And, just hearing the conversations tonight, we are looking for more accountability. And it's really nice to look up on the walls here and see that your kids can do. And, take your data from that. This is authentic data. All right, with my little sermon done.
All right, can I have a motion?
That's my point. Any
Absolutely.
questions on?
Motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Can I just ask one
Yep,
question?
absolutely.
Are we confident that the faculty at each of the schools will embrace this?
Well, I
I
think
would
there's been contact
hope.
with each of the principals. Am I correct
At
in that
least
way?
with the elementary
No?
principals, I don't foresee a problem with
Maybe not
either
Mrs.
the
Riley.
middle school or the
Are you open to this,
high
Mrs.
school
Riley?
teachers, art teachers helping. I don't foresee it as an issue at all.
Yeah, they're very good, yeah.
Okay.
I don't. If I did, I would have mentioned it in the memo.
Right. If the art teachers aren't with it, they shouldn't be here.
And again, if for whatever reason, as Peter mentioned, if for example, here at the high school, if there's something because of scheduling, only so many kids take art, but other kids may want to participate, Peter can work with Chris on setting up a schedule, either at lunch, after school. I'm sure it won't be a. And Gloria will jump in as well, so I don't foresee any issues.
Okay. So, Mr. Cabral, Mr. Ashley, Ms. Riley.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea. I'd also like to just express my gratitude for Peter and Mika for the hours and hours they worked tirelessly installing the old Ranger mural backup, and also included the students from this year's class. It's been an amazing project for the entire school. The children not only added to the artifact of the old Ranger School, but they learned a bit about Tiverton history. Mika and Peter worked together with the children. They cheerfully discussed and explained the process and answered many questions. We were all witness to the hard work, the tireless dedication to the arts, creativity, and I'd like to thank Peter and Mika for their lasting contribution to our Ranger School. The unveiling of this awesome project will be this Thursday, June 8th, as part of our science fair. So if anyone has an opportunity, a chance to stop by, you can see the science fair as well as this fantastic piece. Time 6 to 8. It really came out. It's really beautiful.
When's the unveiling itself? Is it going to be at 6 or 8 or 7 or?
Did they give you a time yet?
We had one of your a grandfather came by the other day when we were working, and he's like, "Tell me about this thing." And he was at Ranger. He was like on his way out in, age-wise and everything. When they made 20 years ago, his grandchildren are at Ranger, and this guy he went through this thing and just confirmed this community builder. And I mean, in 40 years, they're going to be looking at the library over here as this big, wow, what they did in 2017. So I look forward to all of this.
I haven't got the time. Have they said what time as far as the unveiling on Thursday night?
You got me.
So we're going to set it at 7 o'clock, and I'll tell everyone tomorrow.
Don't you love that?
All right. An announcement from the throne. Okay. All right. So we have a motion and seconded. Any other questions? All those in favor? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have to say, it's been watching it as a parent, it's been a wonderful collaboration at Ranger. So, all right. Request for approval, middle school parking lot contract bid.
Yes, as part of our initiative.
Too bad everyone's left.
Lori home crying, is that why?
To get our middle school
tears of joy.
Parking lot paved this summer, we went out to bid. And I was pleased that we had 5 vendors, highly regarded pavers and street construction vendors bid, and the low bid was Carty Construction of Warwick with a bid of $169,675, which I'll note is significantly below what the architects have placed in the 5-year plan. So I was very happy to see that. So I'm recommending we go with the low bid of $169,675 with Carty Construction of Warwick to pave the middle school parking lot.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
You just always have a little hesitation about low bids.
No,
Hesitation about Cardi after the Point Street Bridge, but.
No, they had many references that greatly offset a couple of highly publicized issues that they're still negotiating.
Okay.
Have they also indicated that they would be available to do it on our timeline?
Yes.
All right.
And again, because we're not doing the roofs this summer, that we have much more flexibility.
Yeah. They don't have to work
get it
around
done.
the roof equipment.
Right.
And we did expand the original scope of it to include the driveway in front. That wasn't part of our original plan, so it's even more expansive than we originally had planned.
Okay. Did we have a motion and a second already?
Yes.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Okay.
I would also just like to point out that this was very close to what the estimate was. It's slightly higher, but I believe the original estimate was around $155,000. So we were very pleased that you know, it was just slightly higher than what we thought we were going to pay. And again, the funds have been set aside,
They have been,
you know, as one of our capital projects.
Mhm.
So when people say, well, where's the surplus? Well, here's where, one example of where the money's going.
All right.
That's it.
Announcements?
Announcements, the graduation walk, everyone's invited on June 8th. Chris I'll email you the schedule as to where everybody's going to be, but it will be right after the seniors do their last graduation practice, and feel free to go to any one of the schools that the students. It's Ranger, the middle school, and Fort Barton. Fortunately, the field day was already scheduled at Picasso and also
Definitely
the middle
next year.
school.
Oh, absolutely. We just.
I have a young man that's already looking forward to it. I know a young man that's already looking forward to it.
So we're looking forward to that. That's our first annual graduation walk. And then, of course, this Friday at 6 o'clock, graduation in the high school gym.
If I may add,
Get here early.
get here early. Tomorrow at Ranger School is hosting the code.org workshop. We spoke about at the last meeting, part of Computer Science for RI. So that's tomorrow all day. We'll have 25 teachers, K to 6, getting some excellent training gratis from the Governor's Office on Innovation. So very exciting.
That's great.
Anything else?
Dr. Larkin? So,
Yep. Yep.
all the sports have been doing very well, you know, tennis, lacrosse, and I went to the softball game. Tiger rode on the bus. He was very proud. He went up with the girls, and the baseball's still in it. We went to the game last night in Situate, and it rained on us, but they lost, but they're going to win the next time. I know they can beat that team, so they're really doing well.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion to move into executive session? Mrs. Black?
Elaine? Executive session.
I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session under RIGL 42465A1, superintendent's evaluation, job performance, character, physical, or mental health.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes, yes.